Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Skip Allen, and this is Movie Battleground. And this week we have a great matchup between Jay Burnz and Jake Damon here doing Movie Battleground. This should be a great matchup. I just want to introduce my judges. James, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Dan. How you doing, man?
Hang in there. Malcolm, what's up tonight? It seems like you and I are on the air a lot lately.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. This should be a great battle.
Yeah, I agree. And Jay, what do you think about this matchup? Is this your first time doing Movie Battleground, or have you done this before?
This is my first time doing Movie Battlegrounds. I do participate over in Multiplex's Nerdgasm, where I have a good time there, so I'm hoping to have a good time here too. I love arguing about movies, and whether or not you think I'm right or you're wrong, the honest answer is I'm probably right.
All right. Oh, that's good. Jake, you got a rebuttal to that?
I've never done anything like this before, so this is a first time thing for me. So I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm probably going to fall flat on my face, but I'm going to try and have a good time doing it.
All right. Well, that's what we're all here for. You know, we all love movies, so we're all talking about movies. We might get a little heated in our arguments here, but it's all, in the end, it's all going to be fun. We're all trying to enjoy ourselves. So here are the rules for Movie Battleground. So the first round, what we got is it consists of 3 questions where each player gets 2 minutes. Both will get 5 minutes to banter back and forth with each other. Then at the end, it'll be another 2 minutes for. Now this is for each question. That's what you get. And then for the speed round consists of 2 questions if it goes that far. And they have 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and another. The next round is 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and 10 seconds. So if the third round gets, or the 5th round gets that far, that's how we're going to do it. And the 4th round is 30 seconds and then 15 seconds. So there's no, if there's a KO after the 3rd question, we don't get to the 4th or 5th questions. So I want to just give a proper introduction to both competitors. This is Movie Battleground, and contestant number 1 this evening is Jay Burnz. And contestant number 2 is Jake Damon. Guys, touch gloves, and hope this is a good, solid, fair match, and hope you guys enjoy yourselves. So with question number 1, we have, what was the best Jake Gyllenhaal performance? Not Jake Gyllenhaal movie, but Jake Gyllenhaal performance. And we also have to decide who wants to go first, and whoever goes first in this question won't get to go first in the next question. So where do you find as far as your comfort level on the first question, Jay?
I say let Jake do it.
So
Legitimately,
Jake,
have problems with that.
all right, so Jake, you're going to go first on this question, and Jay's going to go first on the next question. And based on points and whatever, we'll decide who goes first on the 3rd question.
All right. So my argument is for the character of Lou Bloom in 2014's Nightcrawler. And if you haven't seen this before, it is an amazing showcase of Jake Gyllenhaal's acting ability. It's unexpected. It's subtle. It's both over the top and subtle, in the sense that the way he reacts to certain things aren't necessarily like what your typical person may act like. He's not a normal dude, and it comes out. He's not normal when he's alone. He's not normal when he's in public with other people, and the subtlety in that performance comes out so well. He lost a lot of weight for the role, but that's besides the point. Just shows his dedication to the role. If you watch his mannerisms, if you watch his interactions with the different characters in the show that he's in the movie with, he knows how to put on a mask and a face to be a certain way that he thinks he needs to be around people to appear as normal. and but we know what's really going on underneath. At the same time, he's not knowing what's going on underneath. He's like a mystery. He's an enigma. His performance is absolutely incredible. It's spine chilling. You feel so many different emotions watching him act, and the things he accomplishes throughout the movie, I feel like only somebody as strange as him could accomplish. And it's really weird watching that movie and then watching interviews with him as like a normal dude, you know, like on Conan or whatever, because you can see like the direct contrast between who he played in the movie as Lou Bloom and who he is in real life. And it shows me how amazing of an actor he is. And I didn't realize how good he was until I saw Nightcrawler. And he instantly became one of my favorite actors. And Nightcrawler, for that reason, for his performance, is the reason Nightcrawler is one of the only movies I've seen twice in 24 hours.
All right, so that's time. Now it's up to Jay to give his argument. And James, just give me kind of like a 10-second countdown when they get down close to the end, please. Thank you. And Jay, whenever you speak, that's when the timer goes.
Coming right out of the gate, I already know this is going to be an uphill battle. I chose Bubble Boy for the simple fact that when you think of a Jake Gyllenhaal movie, when I think of a Jake Gyllenhaal movie and I think of a Jake Gyllenhaal performance, what I want to do is I want to laugh. I don't want to be depressed by a sociopath who does nothing but sociopathic things during his entire movie. So what would I rather see? A beautiful movie and a performance from somebody about growing up not being able to physically interact with anybody for the fact that he might die, and actually having that displayed across his face when he's stuck in his little bubble. That's why goes harder than Nightcrawler, just for the simple fact that he is so physically limited. Even though he's in a bubble and he's able to move around, he's not able to physically interact with people without a barrier. And I think it shows in his performance in that movie. That's all I got. I'm done.
Okay. We didn't even have to get to the 10-second rundown. So now you guys have 5 minutes to banter back and forth, saying whatever you want to say about your movie or against the other person's movie or performance. So when the first person speaks, that's when James will start the clock.
And I'll give you a 1 minute timer towards the end.
Thank you, James.
Okay, so I'm going to say something in response to what you said. You said when you watch Jake Gyllenhaal movies, you want to laugh. And I would disagree with you. Well, first of all, that's a subjective thing. You can go into a movie wanting any number of things. When I go into a Jake Gyllenhaal movie, after seeing Nightcrawler especially, I hope that I get a very not run-of-the-mill performance, nothing that we normally see. And I feel like every movie nowadays is either trying to make you laugh, whether it's a Marvel movie, nothing wrong with that. I love Marvel movies, but there's always a quip, there's always a joke, there's always something. And sometimes I just like a movie that doesn't try to make you laugh. You know, like the whole point of Nightcrawler is to make you feel uncomfortable. And when I heard that before I saw it, I went in hoping that's how I felt, and that's exactly how I felt, even more so than I wanted to. And I came out really, really enjoying my experience because of that. And also, I would say that the difference between Bubble Boy, in which you said he has physical limitations, is that in Nightcrawler he has mental limitations, in that he doesn't really know how to interact with people in the right way. And that to me is interesting because everything he does is so unexpected. You have no idea what he's going to do next.
So not to be disparaging to people who actually suffer from mental illnesses, but what you're describing to me is an autistic sociopath. That's not what I want to see in my movies. And almost everything you said I want to go to a movie and and laugh. It is subjective. You're not wrong there, but you also interjected with your own personal biases about what you want to see in a movie and what you want to feel in a movie. Yes, it's weird to see Jake Gyllenhaal act like a normal person. You're right, but if you look at a large slate of Jake Gyllenhaal performances, a large slate of Jake Gyllenhaal performances are him being dark, moody, and just an all-around weird person. You get that in Nightcrawler, but you also get it in Donnie Darko, and you kind of get it in Brokeback Mountain as well. You could have chosen any of those, and I mean, smirk all you want. It's necessary. It's true because it's a drama. It's a drama and it's a thriller. But in Bubble Boy, what you have is somebody going out of their way to do a comedic performance. It's harder to do comedy and make it legitimately funny than it is to pretend to be a depressed sociopath. That's just honestly, that's how I feel about it.
I would say that if you stuck me, not an actor, in a bubble and put a camera on me, I could probably have a good time like trying to make jokes and stuff. But if you told me you need to act like you're autistic and not know how to interact with people and make it like seem like you really have this issue, I would really struggle with that. And I think that's showcase. I think it's easier to make a joke while you're in a plastic bubble than it is to make it seem like you're an autistic sociopath who beats people to death over some metal that you pick up in the alleyway or whatever.
So let's get this straight. It's harder to pretend that if you get it's not harder to pretend that if you get exposed to air or anybody or a disease or anything, you will literally die, which is a legit thing in this movie. It plays across his face in his performance. Yes, he has fun. Yes, he makes jokes, but there are serious points in this movie where you don't know because of his acting. It's so well done. But what you have in Nightcrawler is somebody who will ultimately, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, basically start committing crimes to keep making money. What you have is an unsympathetic character, which can be a good point, but when you watch somebody's performances in a movie, you want to be able to connect to them. And I'm sorry, you cannot connect to somebody who is that unsynced with humanity. That person.
1 minute.
That's why I would say I was way more fascinated with his performance in Nightcrawler is because I couldn't connect with it. It was something that was fascinating to me. And I feel like if I could connect with it, it would take away some of that fascination. I feel like the reason that his performance in Nightcrawler is better, and this is going to be like my big point here, is that it is one thing to be comedic in a bubble, but I think it's another thing to study all of the points that comes with like autism or some mental illness like that, where you have difficult time connecting with people. And there, if you look on Google or whatever, there's bullet points for like how people like this act, and to master all of those and infuse them into your performance is, I think, a very hard task that I think he knocked out of the park.
Okay, but at the exact same point in time, if you have an immunodeficiency disease or you don't have an immune system at all, to be able to portray that legitimate fear and not be able to physically contact it, come into any physical contact
you
with
don't have
anybody,
to do anything. You just stand behind the glass and you'll be like, oh, I can't touch the air. This sucks.
Vatos Locos forever, Holmes.
James, is that 5 minutes?
That's time.
That's 5. Okay, that's 5 minutes. Okay, now each one of you have 2 more minutes to make your final pitches to the judges on what you feel about your movie and the other person's movie. So, because Jake went first on the beginning, Jay can go first this time. And whenever Jay talks, that's when the clock starts.
Excuse me. Okay. First off, I want to say this is really fun. Jake, I love the little Doctor Who chair that you got going on, bro. Whovian for life over here. But really, when it comes down to it, it seems like our points are a little bit the same, especially whether it's dealing with like a physical ailment or whether it's a it's a mental health ailment. To me, it's easier to portray a mental health ailment than it is a physical ailment. I think that, to me, is what boosts Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in Bubble Boy. It's not really a movie that a lot of people think of, but when you go back and you rewatch it, you're like, damn, okay, this is a young Jake Gyllenhaal. This is, this is not a Donnie Darko-esque Gyllenhaal. This is a Gyllenhaal that you don't get to see very often. He doesn't get to play. He's always the straight man. He's always the opposite. He never gets to play the funny man. And when he does get to play the funny man, he is burdened by the fact that he is not allowed to feel the warmth of another person's touch without it possibly killing him. And you can see that on his face without even having to come in contact with anybody else. He is he is literally showing you how terrified he is of the outside world. He basically becomes a germaphobe while stuck in that bubble because it's the way he was grown. It's the way he was raised. He was basically indoctrinated by his parents to think that. And when the end of the movie comes around and you find out that he doesn't necessarily need it, you still go back and you rewatch that performance and you can see, damn, I literally saw the fear on his face when his bubble gets popped, and everybody's heart sank when you see that happen in that movie. And you can see it on his face. That is one of the greatest scenes Jake Gyllenhaal has ever done, in my opinion. And that's why I think this is his best performance.
All right. Jake, it's your turn to sway the judges one way or the other.
All right, so I think where our points are not really or where we can't agree on something, which is the whole point of this fight here, is that you think that it takes way more skill to act like you have a physical ailment than it does have a mental ailment, and I completely disagree with that. I think it definitely depends on the circumstances, but I think generally speaking, it takes way more skill to study up on what it's like to have a mental illness where your entire personality is going to be, you have to act like your entire personality, like the way you think, everything, the way you act is not you. And that's acting, in itself. That's the definition of acting, I guess. But to pretend like something could hurt you, I feel like anybody could do that. But I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal really showcases what being an actor is all about in Nightcrawler, where he just changes into a completely different person. And to the extent where when I watch an interview with him in real life and watch him in a movie, I feel like they're two completely different people. And I think if an actor can pull that off, he's succeeded in what he is supposed to be master of, and that's getting lost in a character and making you forget that this is a completely different person than Jake Gyllenhaal.
All right, you guys, I'll tell you what, you did a hell of a job. It makes me want to go watch both movies now after listening to you guys talk about them. But first, we're going to go to Malcolm. You're the first person that gets to reward a point. So go for it, my friend.
Yeah, this was definitely an interesting battle because you both couldn't have picked two really vastly different ends of the scale, Jake Gyllenhaal. So this was tough. But I mean, I'm going to have to give my point to Jay because his points is bringing up about connecting to a comedic Jake Gyllenhaal performance as opposed to a performance which has been quite similar to what he has done. Whether or not Mysterio is the same way as well, it looks like it might be quite different, we don't know. But a lot of Jake Gyllenhaal's performance have been really sort of on the dark edge. So I think Jay's points about connecting to the comedic side is probably why I'm giving him the point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's 1 point from Malcolm for Jay. James, it's your turn.
Well, I agree that these could not be more uniquely different movies. But I am leaning the other direction. I believe that Jake made the stronger points. I don't believe that Jake Gyllenhaal, when I think of him, I don't think of comedy like Jay had initially, inferred. I think of more dramatic performances, and I believe that Nightcrawler is his best. And I do think that Jake hit the nail on the head that it's harder to believably portray somebody with a mental illness as opposed to a physical illness.
All right, so with that, we have 1 point for Jay and 1 point for Jake. And that means I'm the deciding factor here, guys. I'm just going to read a few notes that I have for both sides. Jake said that his character in Nightcrawler was subtle, not a normal person. He physically lost a lot of weight, had a look in his face. It was mysterious, and he was like an enigma. At times, it was like spine tingling, and very uncomfortable to watch Jake as this character in Nightcrawler. And in Bubble Boy, Jay said that he thought, he wanted to laugh. And when he was growing up, he didn't want to see serious movies. He wanted to see funny movies. And the fact that he might die is kind of like a big thing with him in the film. But I think these guys both hit it on the head, though. does it seeing how he could be more comfortable as a character as a sociopath or a person dealing with a debilitating illness in a bubble. And that's what it basically comes down to. And it's what is more realistic of a performance and the points that Jake made to me as far as his character in Nightcrawler really resonated with me. And so I'm going to have to give my point towards Jake. And I just think that when you can portray a character like that, a guy that loses weight, he looks like a skeleton in of himself, and he does such sadistic, evil things, and make it believable. That is the key to a great performance, and that's why Jake. I'm going to give my point to Jake. And so to start off, Jake has the first point. Jake, you're in the lead with 1 point. And Jay, you're going to get to go first in the next question, which I'm going to read in just a second here. So the second question is thus. Which actor/actress had the worst run of movies, at least 3 critically or financially bad movies in a row? And Jake, whenever you speak, that's when the clock starts. James, you ready to go?
I go first this round.
Yeah, that's what I meant, Jay.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Jay,
No, you're good.
When you're ready to go, that's when the clock starts.
All right. I chose an actor who, when he's in other people's movies, seems to tend to shine. I chose, but when he's in his own movies and he is the leading man, very, very poor. They're critically acclaimed. They aren't loved by the masses. I chose Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider is my choice for an actor with the worst 3 or more movies. If you look at all of his movies, barely any one of his movies in the last almost 30 years breaks even 5 stars or less than 30 of rating of 30 on Metacritic. Everybody shits on these movies, and if you watch them, you can see why. They are just not good. The best one out of the last is maybe Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, but we can bring in the argument for sexism. We can do the exact same thing for the hot chick. The Animal, just a fucking terrible movie. I couldn't finish watching that movie. I have never walked out of anybody else's movies faster than I've walked out or changed the channel on a Rob Schneider movie. That's why he's my choice.
All right. Rob Schneider getting thrown under the bus on that one. All right, Jake, see if you can outdo Jay on that.
Well, my pick is a guy who I got to know over the last few years. Just a terrible actor, terrible kind of human being. Like it's the type of actor that I watch interviews with just to see how much of a shitbag of a human being he is in real life. And he, just like cringy, like when he's talking, I just want to punch him in the face. And this is Kellen Lutz. And Kellen Lutz his claim to fame was in the Twilight series. He played a character named Emmett Cullen, whoever the heck that is. And he's had bit parts on stuff in recent times, but apparently he tried to make a go at it in a lead role, completely failing on every level. He was in What Men Want as a character named Captain Fucktastic that had a 2.7 on IMDb. He was in Speed Kills that has a 3.9, Guardian of the Tomb, whatever that is, 4.5. The ones that I love the most are The Legend of Hercules, which is the movie that he started, and it was going against The Rock's the Dwayne The Rock Johnson's Hercules movie, and then an animated version of Tarzan that was it shouldn't have been made, and that had a 4.2 on IMDb, or a 4.8. I'm sorry, 4.2 was The Legend of Hercules. This guy sucks. He just sucks, and all of his movies tank, and like I don't know why he even acts. So that's mine.
All right, wow. So we're really throwing these guys under the bus here. Now we got a 5-minute where you guys can duke it out against which one of your crappy actors is crappier. So whoever speaks first, James, that's when you start the clock.
I'll say that I think Rob Schneider has the advantage here because he's way more well known, and I think more people are going to go see a Rob Schneider movie than they're going to see Kellen Lutz. You know, they're going to be like, "Who's Kellen Lutz?" And if you compare box office numbers, I haven't done this. I should have done it, but I am willing to bet that Kellen Lutz has made way less at the box office than Rob Schneider can.
No, you can't say that. You can't say that. He is in one of the most popular fucking franchises of all time, especially when it comes to teenage girls. He's in all of the Twidget movies, my guy. We can't go there. This is the whole thing. Yes, you're kind of making my point for me. Rob Schneider is at an advantage because people know him, but they don't know him from his own movies. They know him from Adam Sandler's movies. But we're not talking about Adam Sandler movies. We're talking about Rob Schneider movies. Yes, it will bring a little bit more of a draw, but when people start slamming it, it gives me more fuel to my fire that there are more people out there to talk more shit about Rob Schneider's shitty fucking movies than there is about Kellen Lutz. And people will still love Kellen Lutz just for the fact that he played the fucking Abercrombie and Fitch looking asshole from that one fucking vampire series. But everybody remembers that. That's the thing. It was they're not good movies. You're right on that. But they made money, and they made a lot of money. That's why they made fucking 4 or 5 of them.
But if I go out on the street, like in New York City or whatever, and go, "Do you know who Rob Schneider is?" A lot of people are going to say yes. If I say
it depends on
who. Go, no. But the point with that is if you do so bad in your movies, even in Twilight, like he's been in Twilight, it's been seen by a lot of people, but probably not a lot of people know who Kellen Lutz is. So if you try your hardest to be an actor and break into the mainstream and can't even do it well enough where people don't know your name, that sucks. You've done a terrible job as an actor. You've done a terrible job as a human being, and you don't deserve to make any more movies.
But that's the entirety of it, though. You can ask those same 100 people to name however many Rob Schneider movies that they're going to name. Guaranteed, they're going to say an Adam Sandler movie. They're not going to say a Rob Schneider movie. They're going to say, "Oh, he was great as the You Can Do It guy in fucking 9 of Adam Sandler's movies." But they're not going to be like, "Oh, yeah, you know what? No, he was really introspective. He really made me reflect on myself when I saw him play that really vapid chick in that one movie." You're not going to get that with him. But nobody cared about Hercules. They shouldn't have made either one of those live action versions. Disney already made the perfect. Yeah, exactly. Disney already made the perfect animated Tarzan. It definitely didn't need to happen. But you know what else didn't need to happen? Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo.
That was a terrible movie. But
you're right. It was.
But I mean, was it as bad as I don't know, Tarzan, the second animated one, where
the question is
modern day?
But the question is, should it count if only 4 people saw that movie and 3 of those people were Kellen Lutz back to back to back?
My point is that Kellen Lutz made about $5 while Rob Schneider made about 50,000.
Kellen Lutz has made more money than Rob Schneider has just by being in those shitty Twilight movies.
Do you know that for sure? Because I feel like
I don't.
A proxy in an Adam Sandler movie. I will look this up right now. I
can't. You and me were having a conversation. You can't look it up. Somebody else can. But the statement still stands. Rob Schneider's a shitty actor. He can't pull off doing a movie on his own.
By name alone, this will be my last point. Just by name alone, Rob Schneider has already attained a certain level of success and has more of a chance of attaining a level of success that Kellen Lutz doesn't have a shot at.
You want to talk about people being shitty human beings? Rob Schneider's anti-vax. That's about as shitty as you can get.
Well, Kellen Lutz lies about how many siblings he has. I watched 2 different interviews. And one, he said he had 5 siblings. The other, he said he had 4. He doesn't even know how many family members he has. He's an idiot.
Can somebody not have had a child in between that time, between those two interviews?
I'm just saying I've always known how many brothers and sisters
I'm just saying, like, if one interview happened 2 years ago and he's like, oh yeah, no, I have 4 siblings, and then last week I ask him again, oh yeah, how many siblings do you have? 5. The logical sense right there is, oh yeah, somebody had a baby in between that time. We're getting off topic though.
Rob Schneider may make bad movies, but I think he's a smart enough human being to know how many siblings he has. I think Kellen Lutz is.
I don't think anybody. I don't think Rob Schneider's.
That's it, guys. 5 minutes is up. Good job. I'll tell you what, you guys really good now with your throwing each other's character on the you gotta get a chance to make me laugh some more here, because you get 2 minutes, because Jay started first. Jake, you get to go first in the third round of round 2. So, Jake, when you speak, your 2 minutes will start.
All right. Like I said, Kellen Lutz is so he's tried so hard to be so big and has failed completely. And Rob Schneider has worked his way up. Like, people know who Rob Schneider is. He's a bona fide actor. He's been in good things. He's been in bad things, and people know who he is. He's established his name. Kellen Lutz was in one of the biggest franchises of all time, and hardly anybody could tell you who he is besides rabid fangirls who were 18 when they first saw him and are 35 now. And he sucks at acting. He sucks at his job. He's basically in the industry based on his looks, because that guy's a tree. He's a piece of wood. And Rob Schneider can, he could probably muster a laugh out of you if he tried. Kellen Lutz probably doesn't even know how to tell a joke. He probably doesn't know any jokes. And the movies he's been in have all been cash grabs by terrible studios in Thailand who don't know why they're making the movie in the first place. They don't know the concept of Tarzan. They don't know the concept of Hercules. And they are putting him in because he's eye candy, because he looks good. Rob Schneider has a career. He has an established career. He's made a lot more money than Kellen Lutz ever could hope to. And he is just a better overall actor than Kellen Lutz. I think that Rob Schneider is more talented than Kellen Lutz. I think Kellen Lutz is in this because he's pretty. And all of his movies have made zero, close to zero. Like, he has, his movies don't pull in money. Rob Schneider's movies pull in money. That's the last point.
All right. So your Jake is done. Now it's Jay's turn. You got your 2 minutes to try to do everything you can to make. Sounds like Adam Sandler is the best, the best of the worst here.
You mean Rob Schneider?
Rob Schneider. What did I say?
You said Adam Sandler.
Oh, damn it. You got me saying
don't get me wrong, dude. He's had a shitty run on movies too. Okay, so the Ridiculous Six. Again, you're helping me out here. You said Rob Schneider's a good actor. Rob Schneider's a good actor in Adam Sandler movies. He's not a good actor when it comes to his own movies. Nobody knows him outside of Adam Sandler movies. Real talk. Just like okay. Twilight, you mentioned rabid fangirls in Twilight. Were 18 when they first saw it, and they're 35 now. You know what most 35-year-old women have? A couple of kids. You know what they're showing their kids? Fucking Twilight movies. You know what yes, they are. You know what Hot Topic had? Fucking pictures of everybody from the cast of Twilight on t-shirts. You know what they never had? Rob Schneider on t-shirts. And Hot Topic was one of the most popular stores in the fucking mid to now 2000s. We're talking about an individual who cannot act. I know it's really difficult to figure out which one we're talking about, but I'm talking about Rob Schneider right now. If you've seen any one of his performances, you talk about Kellen Lutz looking like a tree. Rob Schneider acts like a tree. He has no facial expressions. He's a shitty human being, and he's a shitty actor. Fuck Rob Schneider. He's a terrible actor, and his movies suck.
All right. Wow. That's going out on a firestorm there, Jay. Let's throw it to the judges. Let's see what they have to say. James, what do you got to say, buddy?
Well, first, before we get to my opinion, I'm going to fact check a couple things here for you guys. So I actually did look at the box office, and it looks like Kellen Lutz has about $1.5 billion in box office, basically all of the Twilight movies. Rob Schneider's right around 900 million or so. And looking at Rotten Tomatoes scores, the very highest movie that Rob Schneider has ever been in was Muppets in Space at 63% on Rotten Tomatoes, followed by Demolition Man at 61%, and then Nothing Else Fresh. Nothing Else Fresh.
Can I just hang
Kellen
my head
Lutz,
in?
his highest percentage was 86% for Experimenter, and then 63% for the Osiris Child, and then Nothing Else Fresh. So you guys picked pretty equally shitty people. However, as far as the arguments go, I really think that Jay was just holding back nothing this round. He came out firing, pointing out that you really remember Rob Schneider mostly for somebody else's movies. You remember him for Adam Sandler movies. He hasn't made a good movie on his own pretty much ever in his career. He's been worse for longer. I think that that Jake was kind of up against the wall on this one, but I got to give my point to Jay.
All right, that's 1 point for Jay from James. Now it's Malcolm's turn. Malcolm, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like it's really interesting because they're both very even when it comes to the people that they pick. But I mean, based on the arguments, I actually am going to go with Jake on this because I think his point that he made of more people will know who Rob Schneider is outside of Adam Sandler and will be willing to go to his movies. A lot of people will see Callum Lutz names and if they've never seen Twilight, it's like, who the hell's that? It's like, so I think that point sort of stuck for me that Callum Lutz just his name just really doesn't sell anything. So outside of Twilight, so yeah.
It's all t-shirts that Hot Topic.
Yeah. All right. So we got 1 point for Jay and 1 point for Jake. So once again, I am the deciding factor here. The thing that Jay said, I'm going to say, people shit on Rob Schneider's movies all the time. That they make no money. That Kellen Lutz movies make no money. We've proven that by James saying the Twilight movies have made money. And that Rob Schneider's got a bunch of terrible movies but also the Twilight's terrible movies. So they're both equal in that aspect. But a lot of the movies that Rob Schneider are in are Adam Sandler movies. And what Jake said was he had movies where he was in big budget movies, but he was a smaller character, but they weren't good movies. But he did have a chance to star in some movies like Legend of Hercules, and that movie stunk. So my argument here is this. I would say the person who had the worst career is someone that we've seen in movies. We've seen in movies by themselves, or we've seen in other people's movies. We've seen in a lot more movies, and so they had a lot more chance of failing. I feel like if you asked two random people on the street who, if they knew who Rob Schneider is or Kellen Lutz, they would say, yeah, we know who Rob Schneider is. And then if you ask this question to random people, they would, yeah, Rob Schneider don't have movies, but I don't know who Kellen Lutz is. He was like the fifth or sixth wheel, like co-star in the Twilight movies. Those weren't even really his movies. They were Kristen Stewart and Rob Pattinson's movies. So you can't really say about him being a bad actor in somebody else's main starring movies of Twilight. He only really had one starring movie by himself. So I actually have to go with Jay on this one. I think Rob Schneider has proven what a bad actor he is and what a bad batch of movies he's had over his career. Going into the third question, here we go. This is the question. Pitch a reboot to the Resident Evil franchise. And because Jake started first and Jay started the second question first, now it's Jake's turn again to start the third question. And when you speak, that's when the clock will start, Jake. So go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right, so my pitch for the Resident Evil reboot is literally just a reboot of the story itself. We're doing a remake of Resident Evil 1, just calling it Resident Evil. we're having Sam Raimi direct, and I feel like Sam Raimi's a great choice because Sam Raimi knows horror. You could get some Evil Dead flavor in there with the humor, not too much humor, just enough though to give it the Sam Raimi flavor. Maybe have a Bruce Campbell cameo, whatever you want. But he would know how to handle Resident Evil and put it in a new direction that would make it more successful at the box office than it's been before. I think that a lot of new potential fans could find it through this, but not just Sam Raimi's attachment. I would have Haley Steinfeld as the lead, and Haley Steinfeld is a wonderful up and coming actress. She's already established herself in Hollywood. My first exposure to her was in True Grit, the Coen Brothers film True Grit, which was fantastic, and her performance was amazing in that. And she's been in other things since then that have been critically well received, and one of those things is Bumblebee. It's in theaters right now, and she's great in that. I think she would do great as like this badass female lead, replacing Mila Jovovich from the old movies that started back in 2002. I think she would bring a new life to it, and that her name alone could draw a lot of people to the box office. And just, get a really good script. You'd have great actor, great director, and I think you'd be off to the races with a great restart and reboot to a franchise that frankly petered out at the end there and didn't really do too well up till that point.
All right, that's good. Now, Jay.
Can I say I want to use my extra minute on this?
Oh,
all right. Yeah, okay. You can.
Yeah, I will choose to actually use my extra minute. I know it's probably a Warzone first or a Battlegrounds first. My movie is titled Raccoon City, Under the Umbrella. The log line for this movie is Shooting for the Stars, STARS. My directors, there are two, Paul Greengrass and David Cronenberg. It will star Michael B. Jordan as Chris Redfield. It will star Carmen Bykondova, who you might know from Gotham, as Jill Valentine, and an odd pick for Albert Wesker, our ultimate villain, Sam Witwer. What do you want in a horror movie? You want horror, you want intrigue, you want action, and you want gore. There really isn't a team out there that can do all four of these things better than a combination of Paul Greengrass and David Cronenberg. Cronenberg is so good at horror and body horror and gore that his name has become synonymous with body horror, just the same way that Ray Harryhausen's name is synonymous to stop motion. Neither are really the originators, but they are the ones that everyone tries to emulate. That being said, the movie follows Chris and Jill, who are rising stars, for lack of a better term, of the Special Tactics and Rescue Services, or STARS, who are being sent undercover to help rescue Albert Wesker, played by Sam Witwer, who went undercover at the Umbrella Corporation a year ago. And he's been sending updates regularly until about 6 weeks have passed. That's when the mission starts. Chris and Jill infiltrate the company and quickly come to the realization that everything is not what it seems with this benevolent company that provides so much for Raccoon City. But they've purchased land and built a secret research facility and basically turned it into a mansion on the outskirts of town for the purposes of conducting tests for the BOW, or bioorganic weapons program. What I'm pitching here is a spy movie that has to do with zombies. It's a combination that you've never really seen. And I think that choosing somebody like Paul Greengrass to direct, a man who's known for the Jason Bourne movies, and David Cronenberg, who is known for body horror, can come together and create this beautiful masterpiece, giving them a decent budget and a big enough star draw. You have the combination for it. You have a perfect storm on your hands. You hear Michael B. Jordan, everybody's going to flock to that. You hear Sam Witwer, you have Schmodown people, you hear Carmen Bykondova, and you have people who are fans of Gotham who want to see whether or not she might be able to go and actually be a better actress than she's being limited to when it comes to Gotham. But this is a movie I think could legitimately work even if I walked into an office and that was my pitch. I think I've got everybody.
All right, that's it for Jay. So that's you guys' arguments. Now you guys get to duke it out in the 6 minute now. So when Jay or whoever talks first goes, that's when James will start the clock.
All right, so I've already got a problem with Paul Greengrass as your director because, well, you've got Paul Greengrass and David Cronenberg, and not very often do you see two directors coming to work together on a movie and have it turn out like spectacularly epic, like you're pitching. I think that it would be a mess. I think that their personalities and their styles would
Lord
not mesh.
and Miller and the Russos.
Yes, but they've been working together for years, and the reason they work together is because
it doesn't matter. That wasn't what you said. What you said was you have an issue with two directors. Just because two directors happen to work on something, and I'm giving Cronenberg the director position because he is known as a director, but consultant, especially when it came to the body horror factor of this.
Okay, that's fine, but is he a consultant or is he a second director? Because I think that the two of them
wouldn't be an EP.
Wouldn't work great together as directors. But even if you have Paul Greengrass, it's just going to be a bunch of shaky cam. And, you know, I don't want a spy movie. You pitch this as a spy movie with zombies. And what Resident Evil should be first and foremost is a zombie movie. That's why people go to see Resident Evil is because of the zombies and the epic kills and, the goofy explosions and things like that. I don't think it's supposed to be a spy movie. It should be. If a Resident Evil movie comes out, it shouldn't be Jason Bourne. It should be Resident Evil. And that's why I think that Sam Raimi would be a great director because he knows how to do horror first and foremost. He knows how to push that angle of it, and he wouldn't make it a spy movie and have people go, wait, what genre is this? And I'm sorry, but Raccoon City Under the Umbrella sounds like a crappy tie-in comic book. It doesn't sound like a movie. It sounds like, it just sounds like a one-issue comic book to intro you into what's going to happen in the story, and one that I wouldn't even buy. And I think just
I'm also not going to go to a movie entitled Resident Evil.
I feel like several people.
I feel like you would have less people going to a movie called Resident Evil, especially with the track record that Resident Evil has, and it's not good, mind you.
But I think if you had a movie called
here
Under the Umbrella, sounds like a kid's book about a raccoon in a rainy day,
is an actual movie. And just to point this out, you are factually inaccurate because the first Resident Evil game was about spies. Albert Wesker was a spy in that first movie or in that first video game.
Was it a spy game first or was it a horror game?
It's a game where it's both, as a matter of fact, because you have to infiltrate, you have to use deception, and you have to solve puzzles. What do you look for when you're in a spy movie? Solving clues, you look for infiltrating places, and you look for solving puzzles. That's what you look for in both a spy movie and a spy game.
Okay, yes, but if you call it a spy movie, Raccoon City Under the Umbrella,
yes, there will be action in this movie, but I don't want. It's a horror movie. It's a horror franchise. The video game. It's a survival horror spy franchise. I don't want somebody like Sam Raimi touching this. Just because Sam Raimi did Evil Dead doesn't make it good. I don't want quips in this. This isn't a quippy fucking thing. This is everybody.
Quips.
You literally called out quips in your opening statement. That's the thing.
Can I get a fact check on the quips?
You said quips. But that being said, I'm not looking for that. That's not what this is entailing. What I'm looking for is a legitimate video game movie with a decent budget, great actors, and directors who have a catalog under their belts to take this on and actually make it something that people will want to see.
And I'm telling you, 10 people are going to go see it. I'm telling you, 10 people are going to go see a movie called Raccoon City Under the Umbrella, and like 100 times that are going to go see Resident Evil, like a reboot of Resident
Nobody's
Evil.
Gonna go
know the name. They're going to know what it is.
Nobody's going to go see a movie that's a reboot of Resident Evil called Resident Evil. It doesn't matter who you put in it. It doesn't matter who you put behind it. Nobody's going to go see that because of the shitty track record that the other franchise has. You've literally just...
Not if in the trailer it says from the director that brought you Evil Dead. I bet you everyone will be buying tickets and going to the theater for
I bet you a majority of the people who would be lining up to see that movie are 45 to 60 years old because nobody knows who the fuck Sam Raimi is anymore.
Dude, I'm 23 years old, and the only reason I know about Sam Raimi is because of Spider-Man.
Exactly. But you know what? Still, okay, that's still 40 years old. You know,
Spider-Man is not 40 years old. That movie came out 19 years ago.
The movie is 20 years old, but think about it. Most adults who will go see that movie were 15 to 20 years old when those movies came out. That means they'll still be.
I'm saying that
my point still stands. What I'm trying to say to you is that Sam Raimi is not the director to make your movie.
Sam Raimi would have a bigger draw because he has made movies that I'm sorry, like generation-defining movies such as Evil Dead. Anybody in the horror realm knows what Evil Dead is, and they know that Sam Raimi directed. And that's like the 40-year-old crowd. And then you've got the Spider-Man crowd, which is like my age, all the way up. So you've got like 20 years old up to 60 years old that know who Sam Raimi would go because of Spider-Man or Evil Dead.
But what you're talking about are two different fan bases. Evil Dead, you could argue, isn't even really all that much of a horror movie. Yes, it has horror elements to it, but that's not what it is. And Spider-Man is a superhero movie. You're not getting a superhero movie.
You're right. And
when it comes to Resident Evil.
I know, but I'm saying that Sam Raimi,
you're going to get a whole lot of turned off fanboys. You're going to get a fucking fan base back. I'm pitching to you is a legit start to a movie franchise that will make money, that will have draw, and will be the first video game franchise to earn $1 billion.
And my last point here, and my big point, is that Sam Raimi has the advantage here because of his two different fan bases. I think that Sam Raimi is in the lead here because he has done Spider-Man, he's done Evil Dead, and those two fan bases are huge, and they'll draw more.
Okay, that was 6 minutes. Okay, now both of you guys can just give your last points supporting yours or bashing the other person's opinion, whatever you feel like doing in your last 2 minutes. And because Jake started, Jay, you get to go first. And whenever you speak, the clock starts. So you're up, Jay.
While there are still a small contingent of fans out there who do believe that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy is ultimately good, I don't think that's a large enough crowd for you to sit there and honestly say this is what's going to bring my movie money. What I'm offering you is a fresh start to a movie that is ultimately about body horror and is a spy thriller, which is what you want. You want intrigue, you want spies, you want a mystery, you want puzzles to solve. You have a great cast, you have a great director, and there's a great premise under it. And you know what the sad part about it is the title can change at any time, but you're stuck with Resident Evil because it's what you've been hammering in. I haven't said the title of my movie once. You've said it 4 times. You're stuck with Resident mine at any time during a pitch meeting, and guess what? It'll still make money. You tell somebody that Michael B. Jordan is starring in a spy thriller zombie movie, you will get the largest crowds because everybody's clamoring for an African-American, a black spy movie. That's why everybody wanted Idris Elba. They can't get Idris Elba because Daniel Craig's doing Bond 25. Cool. We'll give him another movie that throws in another element, a better element than just the spy shit. We got action and we got zombies. That right there is the perfect combination. Sam Raimi hasn't made a good movie since Spider-Man 2. And before that, it was another 14 years. It was Evil Dead. In Evil Dead, no, man, you can't say that. But what I'm sitting here and saying is I'm legitimately giving you $1 billion movie, $1 billion franchise on a silver platter. There's nothing more I can say about that.
All right, Jake, you have the floor, and you get to make the last argument.
All right. My 2 points here, and first of all, I don't think that the premise of the movie matters. I'm glad you put time into it and everything, but I don't think that ultimately matters. What's going to matter is the name attached and the name of the film itself. Resident Evil is a name people will know. It's a name that will draw people to the box office and will sell tickets ultimately. Raccoon City Under the Umbrella is not a name that I think can do that. I think that people are going to have to Google it and wonder what the heck Raccoon City is. It sounds like a tie-in comic book. It does not sound like a movie that I think is going to draw a crowd. And I think that Haley Steinfeld is a great actress. I think she's, neck and neck with Michael B. Jordan as far as like talent and box office draw. It may be different demographics, but I think overall people are going to like going to see this movie that like Haley Steinfeld. And also I think that Sam Raimi just overall more than Paul Greengrass, it has more under his name that people are going to recognize across many generations, or 2 generations at least, with many different ages. You have 20 years old all the way up through 60 years old people that know and love the Spider-Man trilogy and know and love the Evil Dead trilogy. And I think that alone, if you play the trailer for Resident Evil, the reboot, and it says from the director that brought you the Spider-Man trilogy and the Evil Dead trilogy comes, a new film, whatever, that's going to get a lot of butts in seats. And I think that's why Sam Raimi has the advantage, not to mention that he knows how to make a fun zombie movie that people are going to enjoy and remember.
All right. Wow. Good arguments, guys. You made me think about this a hell of a lot more than I would have wanted to if I wasn't judging this, because I'm not the largest fan of Resident Evil out there. But when I saw the question, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. I get to listen to arguments about this. But this is what we're here for. We're here to hear people's arguments about different things we may not necessarily care for ourselves. So with that being said, Malcolm, it's up to you, man. You got to make your points to see who you want to give first point, the third point in this match to.
Yeah, the fun thing I find with pitch questions in any debating league is they're so hard to judge because both pitches do sound really good and really interesting. I'm going to lean towards Jake on this because his points he made about like anyone who doesn't know the video game or series in there and will look at Jay's title, Raccoon City Under the Umbrella, and think, what on earth is this? And we'll have to go Googling it. If you see the name Resident Evil, you're going to know what you're going to see and what it's based on. It also is like his points about the star power and Sam Raimi directing is like, all that sort of is like then cramming a whole bunch of stars into a movie and hope for the best is kind of what I got from Jay. So Jake gets the point.
All right, James, let me hear what you have to say.
Oh man, this was a really good round. Both guys just brought their A game on this one. It was really tough to go back and forth. I was swung one way or the other several times. I really loved what Jake brought up, that having 2 directors that aren't related or haven't collaborated before is very difficult to get, one cohesive story out of. You got 2 totally different styles there trying to work together. But I loved what Jay brought up, saying, it's a spy zombie movie. You haven't really seen that before. It's that the game had spy characteristics. He had all this backstory to it. But in the end, I think that Jake kind of sold me on having the name recognition of Resident Evil, having the name recognition of Sam Raimi. For me personally, I can't tell you the last movie that David Cronenberg has directed. So if you flash his name up there, you can get people with The Fly and stuff. But Raimi has more recent name recognition. Resident Evil, whether you like the movies or not, you're going to recognize that name. So I think Jake had it on that.
Okay, so that's 2 points for Jake and 1 point for Jay. My point would not have mattered. I actually agreed with these guys. I would have went with Jake. I like the idea of Sam Raimi, Haley Steinfeld. You want to put Resident Evil. I would have went out and saw a reboot. I've done it before with RoboCop and some of these other ones just because it was a new reboot of something that I loved before. And I did watch the first couple Resident Evil's movies, and I was semi-entertained. I wasn't all the way entertained, but I was semi-entertained. But then as it went along, that's when it jumped off. I just jumped off the ship. But, yeah, I would have agreed with these guys. I think Jake made enough points that would have garnered my favor as well. So this means it's 2-1 Jake going into the sudden death rounds. And the first question in the sudden death round is this. So the first sudden death question is this. And you guys have to pick a choice, all right? You have to pick a choice. So the first sudden death question is this. Which horror franchise needs to get rebooted? Child's Play or Scream?
Child's
Scream.
Play.
All right, all right, Jay, you chose Scream, and Jake chose Child's Play. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, and so Jay, you said your title first, right?
I thought it came across that way to me, but I mean,
Okay,
if you want
all
to
right,
let,
so
Jake go.
That's
I
right.
heard Scream first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as soon as I start speaking, my 30 seconds goes. Okay, so it's been quite a while since we've seen a movie like Scream be remade. It has not been long enough, in my opinion, for them to start trying to remake Child's Play. It doesn't matter whether it's called Child's Play, it has the character of Chucky in it. What we have when it comes to Scream is parodies, but you haven't had a legitimate Scream movie, and I think rebooting that right now would be the best option. I don't need to see another haunted doll movie. I've seen too many of those in the last 15 years. I'm sorry. That's my time.
All right, Jake.
Scream, we just got a Scream TV show, but my thing with Chucky, the Child's Play franchise, is that Child's Play, it lends itself more toward like an R-rated, funny type of humor, which we've seen with Deadpool. Deadpool 1 and 2 works very well with audiences. It brings in a lot of money. People love and gravitate towards that type of humor. I think Child's Play would work perfectly for that, and that if you had a great script writer and director to make it funny and hilarious, that it would go great and people would show up and drop.
All right, that's time. All right, Jay, you have 15 seconds rebuttal, and then Jake, you have a 15-second rebuttal to that.
What Scream ultimately was basically just a run through and a breakdown of how to survive a horror scenario. I don't want to see another to life. I've seen 9 doll movies in the last 15 years. I don't need to see that anymore. What I would like to see.
All right, Jake, you got 15 seconds.
It's not about how many doll movies have come out. It's about doing one right. And I think audiences now are way more geared towards the type of humor that Chucky could bring across because of things like Deadpool and raunchy comedies like that. And I think that Child's Play would lend itself perfectly to that, and people would know what they're getting. They know what they're getting into.
Okay. That's you guys had a good argument there. All right, we're going to go to James first. James, who do you pick in this one?
Oh, man. I don't want either of these to be rebooted. I know we're already getting the Child's Play one. I think if I had to pick one, I think I'm leaning more towards Jay because of the recency that he brought up, that we haven't had a Scream movie in a while, whereas we've had Chucky movies recently. I know they were talking about, rebooting it from the beginning again, but what he brought up with the parodies, there's so many more types of movies that have been made since a Scream movie that you could parody. So I'll give Jay my point.
All right, Malcolm, it's up to you to say who you choose.
Yeah, this is definitely tough, but I think I'm going to give it to Jay because for the same reason that James said, about the recency and the fact that we've had a whole bunch of doll movies, whether they've been Chucky movies and that in the past few years, we are getting oversaturated them. I mean, the one thing he could have said that would have cemented it for it as well, that would have been the slam dunk, would be if he did bring up the fact that we are getting a Child's Play reboot already. So, but I mean, Jay gets the point anyway. Nothing out it would have been that anyway. So,
all right. So my point wouldn't have mattered, but I actually agree with Malcolm and James with this one. I think that Scream was a kind of a groundbreaking film for when it happened, and then they did it again with the sequel. We've gotten so many Child's Play movies, and we're getting a reboot here pretty soon this year. So I wouldn't mind seeing an updated version of Scream. So I would have given my point to Jay. That means we are tied 2-2 going into.
I did not want this
question. So you guys, I'll tell you what, you guys have done a great job arguing and defending your points and so forth. This is what this is for. This is why we do this. We want to hear a lot of fun arguments. And so this is what we got. You're down to this, boys. Now the first one who picks will get to go first. So here we go. Who gave the better performance as the Joker? Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson?
Heath Ledger.
That means
I
you're
have
stuck
no
with Jack
choice
Nicholson.
but to go with Jack Nicholson.
So you're stuck with Jack Nicholson, Jay, and Jake, because you picked Heath Ledger first. You get to go first. Whenever you speak is when the clock starts, and it's 30, 20, 10.
Good luck with your argument, Jay. Heath Ledger is a no-brainer. Heath Ledger is in the history books of acting as one of the best performances of all time as the Joker. If it's unlimited rewatches on that movie just because of Heath Ledger's performance. You take him out of The Dark Knight, and it's a very good movie, but it's not a great movie, and it's a great movie because of Heath Ledger's performance. And I think Heath Ledger just nailed what it means to be an actor, right along with Jake Gyllenhaal and Nightcrawler. But Heath Ledger's Joker is like the standard for how to act well.
All right, Jay, you got Jack Nicholson. Whenever you speak, you're up. And you got the Batman hat. So I know this has got to be an interesting thing for you.
Jack Nicholson had one person to go off of. He had Cesar Romero to go off of. You have Heath Ledger on record saying that while he tried not to, he also did take from both Cesar Romero and Jack Nicholson's performances as the Joker. You have the epitome of the clown prince of crime when it comes to Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson has the overabundance, the bombacity to pull off a psychopath, but still keep it in the realm of, maybe he's fucked up, maybe it's just Smilex.
Time.
All right, that's you made a very good point there, Jay. All right, so now, Jake, you're going to go back with your 20-second, and then we're going to go back to Jay with his 20-second. All right, here we go.
My rebuttal to that is that Heath Ledger is at a disadvantage because he's had more Jokers come before him, which means he has more of a chance of people ridiculing him for copying a Joker, which means it's harder for him to come up with a Joker that's more unique, and he did it well.
All right, Jay, your turn.
Jack Nicholson personified the epitome of what it was to be the Joker for so long that Heath Ledger was ridiculed about it. You're right. But that being said, people will still sit there and have arguments of whether or not Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson is better. And Heath Ledger didn't deserve the Oscar for that movie. The only reason he got it was because he died. Hot take.
All right. Now we're coming down to our last 10 seconds. Jake, you got 10 seconds to make your last point.
When I mention the Joker, everybody thinks of Heath Ledger.
All right, Jay, you got 10 seconds.
The greatest quote from a live-action Joker of all time is, "Hey, Bats, have you ever danced with the devil by the pale moonlight?" And the greatest Joker of all time is Mark Hamill. The greatest live-action Joker of all time is Jack Nicholson. I have nothing more to say.
All right, that's it. All right, boy. Wow, you guys really, I'll tell you what, when I saw that question, I was like, I can't wait to hear what these guys have to say about this, because I was really kind of excited. I was hoping it would get to the fifth, because I was like, this question was so exciting to me. Malcolm, what do you got to say, buddy?
This is tough because you all made up some really good points. I'm going to have to go slightly with Jay, just because his point he came in there. While Jake did bring up some good points, I think Jay's sort of Barbie brought in sort of in the middle thing about talking about when Heath Ledger won the Oscar, he most people say they don't know if he really deserved it, and most like because he died. So I think that kind of was a nice barb. So I think Jay gets the point for me.
Okay, Malcolm gives the first point in round 5 to
Got lucky with that
Jay.
one, Jay.
Seriously.
All right, now it's James' turn.
You know what? This question and the way it was debated was a lot closer than I think anybody thought it was going to be based on 2 choices. Jay really brought it with Jack Nicholson. And I think he had a near knockout blow when he was saying, Jack Nicholson had, nothing to go on. He made the Joker his own, whereas Heath Ledger had all of these different Jokers to kind of take inspiration from. But Jake ducked that punch and countered with, he had all of that to live up to. And I thought that was the killer shot of the round. He had all of that pressure and he still delivered it. And his movie is pretty mediocre if you take him out of it. I got to give the point to Jake.
Okay, so it comes down to me, guys. Wow.
Regardless, this was fun.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thanks for
What
I
will
like
hate you forever if you make a certain decision, though.
what I liked about what Jay had to say was this: Jack Nicholson had Cesar Romero to go off of, and he made this bombastic, out there kind of character. But if you look at Jack Nicholson's career of movies that he did back then, The Shining and some of these type of characters that he portrayed, the Joker is kind of in line, or even The Witches of Eastwick. The Joker is kind of in line with a lot of other performances that he has given during his career. They're very similar type of performances. He's just playing the Joker. That quote, what you said, Jay, great quote. I mean, some of the stuff with the music and the dancing is very enjoyable. I mean, up until we got the Heath Ledger performance, that was an iconic performance by Jack Nicholson. Jake, you mentioned the fact that it was serious, and without that performance in The Dark Knight may not have been the movie it turned out to be. But what I'm going to say is this. I felt like whoever gave the performance that was good enough to win an Oscar and not only a Oscar, he was dead. He wasn't even alive. So people judged his performance, and that's what Jake said. People judged his performance after he was alive, and they gave him an Oscar. I don't think you can take that away from Jake's argument and Heath Ledger, in my opinion, Jay. And so I'm going to have to say Jake gets the point, and with that, Jake wins 3-2. Woo! I thought you guys did a great job all match long.
Good fight, man. That was close.
A lot of fun. I want to ask my judges, Malcolm, you got any final thoughts at the end of this match? I thought this was a fantastic match.
This was a great match. I mean, you've got Jay, who had the experience going in with Newgasm and that, so he had the experience. Then you've got Jake, who on his debut match, who admitted that he hasn't really done this sort of debating before, come in and take him to the last question and win. It's really incredible for a debut star. I think we can expect great things from Jake. So,
all right, James, do you have any final comments?
No, this was so much fun. Every single question, I was swayed one way or the other, back and forth, to where there was never no round to me was blatantly won by the competitor. I think it could have gone either way. Just 1 point here or there, it made in these arguments that would have swayed us. I think the judging, as you saw, we were split in the first 2 questions, and we were split in a couple other situations where everybody was coming up with very, very good arguments. I saw a lot of poise out of Jake. He's a new guy; he hasn't done it before, but he brought lot of poise tonight and had his stuff. But you got to give the veteran Jay his credit. That the preparedness he had on that third question, it was insane. Wasn't my cup of tea, but I thought it was ridiculous how much he was prepared for it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, we're gonna go to our winner, Jake. What
now,
are your
before
thoughts?
you say that, before you guys talk, hello, Jake. Hello, Jay. First off, I want to say great job by both of you guys. Came down to the final minute. I had no idea where Dan was going with his point. But I'm not usually here when we have these matches. I'm always behind the scenes, make sure everything's run smoothly. But I do have something to say. So, Jake, since you have won this match, I want to let you know that in April, we have a event-like thing going on. It's a battle to a championship. So we'll have you in that, and you're not the only person in this call that will be in that mix. Dan, you're also in this mix. We have a match for you, Dan. You're playing Harley Boric, and whoever wins that will play the winner of Jake. I believe it's Eli versus Nazario. Whoever wins that will play Jake. So you'll play the winner of one of those three, and then whoever wins that will be in a number one contenders match with Brooklyn Vale, and the winner of that goes on to a title. That starts in April. That's as much as I can give right now. We're still in the planning. We don't know what to call this thing right now. So I just want to say that. Congrats. Jay, you still have a big opportunity to get to a title because you did have such a good match today. You're not going anywhere. We're going to get you a match as soon as we can, and then we'll go from there. So, all right. Now take it away with the interviews.
All right, thanks, Matt. I'm going to talk to my our champion or our winner, not our champion, our winner, Jake. What were you thinking when you got a chance to get to these sudden death questions? Because obviously you knew about the other question. You had a chance to think about the answers that you were going to give for the other three questions, but you didn't know what these sudden death questions were. How were you thinking when you chose your picks and stuff, and how did that affect you going forward?
I kind of went with a gut reaction on it. When you ask the questions, I just thought just what sounds the best and what's the best to go with. And I think the Heath Ledger one was just kind of a no brainer. It's like, you always choose that one if you can. I just got lucky with that one. But the Child's Play one, I wanted to go with that one because I thought in a second that I would have a better argument for that one than Scream. But yeah, it's very interesting with those sudden death ones because you don't know what you're gonna get, and it's fun and it's a mixed bag, and you don't know what it's gonna turn out to be. So,
all right, well, since you won, what thoughts do you have to say about your opponent tonight, Jay, and his strategy and so forth?
I think that Jay did a fantastic job. We were neck and neck all the way up until the end. It could have been anybody's game. And he brought it. He was more prepared than I was on the Resident Evil question. And he I think had more knowledge about horror stuff than I did. Like I've never even seen a Resident Evil movie in my life. So I think that he had more knowledge coming into this than I did. And he had a great fight. I felt like I had a good match in this round.
All right, let's go to Jay. Jay, what are your thoughts after the match? You know that Jake won, and if you want to throw some shade towards me, feel free.
No, I ain't gonna throw no shade towards Dan. You stayed as unbiased as possible. It sucks to lose. It really does. It's humbling in a fashion because I know I was on a little bit of a roll when it comes to debates in general. Again, my opponent, Jake, put up a hell of a fight. He kind of stole a round from me that I didn't think would be possible. And I give him nothing but props for that. I still think more people would buy a ticket to see my movie than his, but it's a point for a later time. That's for the after shows. That's for the afterthoughts. I had a blast. This is always fun, and I will always keep coming back because I do just like to sit here and argue with people. So again, thank you to all three of the judges today for being as unbiased as possible in your decisions. And Malcolm, thank you for backing me on that fucking Jack Nicholson, man. I needed that.
All right, so to conclude this, we're just going to go down the line of everybody where you can be found, and then everybody just jump off. Once we go through everybody's social media, where you can be found and so forth, everybody just jump off. Okay, Jay, go ahead first.
Me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, all the good people already know where to find me. So all the bad people, the blackguards, the assholes, the denizens, and degenerates of the internet, you can all find me on Twitter at Jay Burnz 253. You can find me on Facebook at Jay Burnz. You can find me on Instagram at bargang_Burns, and you can find me on Letterboxd 253.
All right, Jake.
You can find me on Twitter at Jake Damon. You can find me on Instagram at Jake W Damon. I do like graphic design part-time freelance, so you can check out some of my artwork on there, logos and stuff I've designed. Yeah, that's it.
James.
Yeah, you can find me around Full Metal. Trying to do some stuff in the singles league this year. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, all Gator24. That is G4TOR24, and you'll find all of my ramblings on there.
All right, and Malcolm.
You can find me on Take Three Productions, where I host my own show, Rankum, every Sunday night. You can also find me competing in trivia on Full Metal and Multiplex. You can also find me on Letterboxd Stardust and at Malcor.
All right, and you can find me at Dan Skip Allen on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, or at From the Fourth Row at WordPress.com, where I write about movies, or to the website that I work for called Cinesportstalk.com, Cinesportalk.com, where I write about sports and movies. So for Jay, Jake, James, Malcolm, Matt, and myself, goodbye, everybody.